Today's episode was recorded remotely from Los Angeles, California, New York City, and Cooperstown, New York. Be sure to check out the video version of the conversation to see live praying mantis specimens. And of course, don't forget to click subscribe and rate the show on your podcast platform of choice.
Patience is actually, in a lot of folklore, people talk about praying mantises in the context of patience and stillness, because often what they're doing, they're actually incredibly smart. That cloudy-eyed head of theirs is holding a lot of ganglia, a lot of neurons and great vision, and they're just kind of doing this, waiting for food. But that's the thing that you see them the most common. The creature of habit is waiting around to eat. I guess they're also looking for love. They do those too. Those are their two habits, is like serial relationships, some of which end in cannibalism, and then looking for food.
Welcome to Sing for Science, the show where musicians and scientists talk about music and science. I'm your host, Matt White. Each week we'll talk about a song by our guest artist and how it connects with our guest scientist's area of expertise. Today we'll be chatting with Australian songwriter and performer Courtney Barnett. Her latest album, Creature of Habit, features a vintage photograph of a praying mantis on its cover, frozen in its iconic prayer pose. The praying mantis theme surfaces again in the album's middle track, Mantis, during which Courtney muses, "Praying mantis on my door, looking for meaning or just any sign at all." Also joining us is renowned entomologist and curator at the American Museum of Natural History, Dr. Jessica Ware. Jessica serves as chair of the Division of Invertebrate Zoology at the museum, where her research focuses on the evolution of insects and how their behavior and physiology adapt over time. Jessica's work spans groups like dragonflies, termites, cockroaches, and the praying mantis, offering a broad view of how insects evolve and interact with their environments. The title of this week's episode is Creature of Habit, the science and symbolism behind the praying mantis. Hello, Courtney and Jessica. Welcome to Sing for Science.
Hello. Hello. Thanks for having me.
So, Courtney, could you set the scene? Can you please tell us everything you can about the moment this mantis appeared?
So, I started working on this album in early 2023, and towards the end of that year, I'd kind of written half of this song, which is now called Mantis. But at that point, I was a bit stuck on lyrics, which then turned into, I was just wondering about my life, what I was doing, where I was going, was I doing the right thing? Everything kind of came at me at once. And this one particular day, I woke up and I was about to start writing, and I was making a coffee, and I looked up on my door frame. I was living in the desert at the time in Joshua Tree, and I looked up and I saw this small green praying mantis on the kitchen door, and I'd never seen one out there, and it felt like quite a special and rare moment. Well, it was for me at that time. And I think just where I was at that point, I was just feeling so lost. And I looked up, what does it mean when you see a praying mantis? And I just found this whole world of meaning. And the first thing I saw that I kind of latched onto was, that it's good luck, and it's a few other things. But I think the main thing was, you're going in the right direction and you're on the right path. And I think that's what I needed to hear that day in that moment. Yeah. It just felt like this very nice message from the universe. And then, that was kind of how it all began.
So did that set you on the track of creating this whole world around the mantis, at least with the album cover? And I've seen all the Spotify visualizers with the mantis video.
Yeah, kind of unintentionally. I didn't really mean for it to happen, but it just did. The mantis image kind of became this recurring thing. And the day that I performed the album for the first time, to an audience, I was walking to the venue to sound check, and there was a praying mantis on the path in front of me. And it was just, small things like that just felt really special. And yeah, when it came time to do the album cover art, I kind of was like, no praying mantises. I don't want any more mantis imagery. But I was working with these great designers, and they found this amazing image by an artist called Lilo Hess. And strangely enough, she moved from Germany to New York, and I think it was 1938. And she volunteered at the Natural History Museum. So I love that even this interaction today is kind of connected in a really nice way.
I didn't mean, Courtney, to pigeonhole you as having made a concept album. I think as a fan of prog rock, I see concept albums where maybe there are none. But when you listen to this music, and especially paired with the visualizer, I see it as a perfect marriage. Especially there's another song on the record where the visualizer is right up close, and you see how large those eyes are. Mostly patient.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it says, what's inside that cloudy little head? And those eyes are just so glazed over. And I'm like, this is a Mantis album. This has got to be a Mantis album.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice. It's nice when things connect in that way. And then from that song Mantis, I had written the line creature of habit, which, is just a phrase that I wrote in passing one morning when I was writing. And it was kind of more about my habits and my creative routine. But then when I chose it later to be the album title, I thought, oh, that's so interesting because it does have such a layered meaning. And then when it's put next to something like the praying mantis, it's kind of so multi-layered, which I quite liked.
Jessica, what would you identify as the most habitual behavior of the praying mantis?
Praying mantises in their adult stage, really, they've just got to do two big things, right? Eat, so they have enough food to mate, so that they can reproduce and make babies. So patience is actually, in a lot of folklore, people talk about praying mantises in the context of patience and stillness, because often what they're doing, they're actually incredibly smart. That cloudy-eyed head of theirs is holding a lot of ganglia, a lot of neurons and great vision, and they're just kind of doing this, waiting for food. But that's the thing that you see them the most common. The creature of habit is waiting around to eat. I guess they're also looking for love. They do those too. Those are their two habits, is like serial relationships, some of which end in cannibalism, and then looking for food.
That was a leading question. I wanted you to deliver on the 70% of females devour the male mate. Is that correct?
It varies by species, and it varies whether you have them in captivity or in the wild. It can be extreme. If they're really hungry, then the closest meal that's going to allow the female to nourish her eggs, to nourish her progeny, it's going to be the male that's right in front of her. Actually, I have a mantis right beside me right now that my student Lohit Garikapati, he was mating them today. And he said, maybe if you want, you could take this and show it to Courtney because they're mating. Girl, there's only one mantis in this box. The male's gone. She's eaten everything but the wings. So,
oh, no.
Sorry, I can't show you the mating because the mating's ended and all that's left are his wing buds. So,
wow. It's definitely one of the main things that I knew in my basic knowledge of praying mantises, and it's often the first thing that people bring up is that kind of sexual cannibalism. That seems to be the fact that many people know.
I kind of love it if you turn it the other way around, right? Rather than it's that she's being like this femme fatale, right? She's like the ultimate mother, the ultimate provider.
Courtney, do you remember when you first looked up what that could perhaps have symbolized when you first saw it on the door frame? Do you remember where that originated? That idea of it symbolizing that you're on the right path?
I remember I looked it up basically straight away because I remember I took just a really basic photo on my phone. I sent it to my girlfriend and she said, "Oh, look it up. It means good luck or something." But I don't remember exactly where. It's just there's so many.
What blew my mind is that in ancient Greece, the word mantis comes from the Greek word meaning prophet. I think mantis, however you pronounce it in Greek is prophet.
I think it's in the Egyptian Book of the Dead as well. I mean, this is something that guides you, guides lost travelers home. And I think that that's like a common European perception too, as like a guide. Although, I mean, it does vary as you go across cultures. I know in South Africa, then the San people consider them, mantises to be like a trickster god. Maybe one of the creator gods, but they're a trickster and they can maybe lead you astray or trick you. So I guess it kind of depends on which culture you go to. But for as long as there have been humans, there have always been mantises. Mantises existed for over 100 million years before we got on the scene. But for our entire existence, there have been mantises. So for the entire time of our early Neanderthal, Denisovian, early Homo, relatives, they would have seen mantises. The oldest person in your lineage would have seen mantises. And we see mantises. So we all are interpreting it through the lens of our own time, I guess.
It's so fascinating. I was wondering, because I saw that they don't live very long, right? Like maybe 1 year?
Mm-hmm.
What's their main kind of contribution to the world that they live in?
I mean, when you think about it in terms of how they affect the ecosystem, I guess, or how humans are impacted by them, they really do this important job as top predators. So they are like regulators. Like the community has all this biodiversity in it, and who gets to stay depends on these top guys that are eating. They're in the top trophic level, and they're consuming the things in the lower trophic level. So praying mantises, in a lot of ways, I think are a sign of good luck, because humans know that if you have praying mantises, it means you have all the other community, which means you have a healthy, robust biodiversity. So they eat pretty much they eat each other. They're famous for being on flowers all the time, and people often say like, oh, that's so cool that they're sitting on flowers. Yeah, but they're sitting on flowers waiting for things that are pollinators to come so that they can eat them, because they know the pollinators come to flowers. So it's so smart. So predation's kind of their gig. And I think you're right. Like part of their life is spent in this egg case. It's called an ootheca. So this female I should show you this. So I have this gal. She's in here by herself now with these wing bits on the ground. She's about to lay an egg case. And that egg case, depending on the species, can live, over winter. So they can live longer than a year. But the adult stage is always pretty short. So in a lot of ways, I think about that when people make metaphors about mantises. I often think about it in the human context. Like if we had a protracted adolescence, if our entire life was just the juvenile stage, and then we had 4 months to find a mate, get out there, disperse, eat a little bit of food. That's a pretty short adult life to make all those important decisions.
Yeah, it's not enough time. Not enough time to get everything done.
I am fascinated to know what the mantis was that you saw in Joshua Tree. What color was it? Was it brown? Was it green?
It was green.
Do you have the photo you sent your girlfriend that you could show us on your phone, if I'm not being too invasive?
Good thinking.
I think, Jessica, you pointed this out when we chatted the other day, like Courtney having come from Australia, where you just have like the most gnarly wildlife crawling all around, that I would assume be desensitized to wild looking insects showing up.
I mean, yeah, we do have some wild things. But I don't know, there's something so unique about the praying mantis. Some of them, they look unbelievable. They look made up, like they've been created or drawn.
Yeah, it's almost comical because I think in Australia, you guys have like 120 species or something like that. Whereas where you would have been in Joshua Tree, maybe there's 20 or something like that. So you kind of already came from an area where you were saturated with mantises. But whether you go, like as you go across the globe, mantises have converged to do these certain body types. So some of them look like grass, some of them look like sticks, some of them look like leaves, but they're not necessarily each other's closest relatives. It's evolved multiple times. Like, hey, if I look like grass, people won't see me, birds won't see me, and I'll survive. If I look in this environment like a leaf, then I'm probably going to make it to pass on my genes to the next generation. So that's kind of happened like multiple times. So when you go to a new area, you go to Australia or you go to the southwest of USA, you're going to see, oh, there's the grass type, the leaf type, the dead leaf type. Oh, I'm in Australia now. There's the grass type, a leaf type, a dead leaf type. It's kind of cool that that's evolved multiple times because that's pretty remarkable. They can look so incredibly similar, but they don't share a common ancestor in many cases.
They don't.
because it's evolved multiple times in different lineages to camouflage.
Okay.
Camouflage is a powerful thing.
And they adapt to the space that they're around.
Yeah, over long periods of time. Mantises are pretty old, so some of them are on all the continents, some of them are on some of the continents, some of them evolved when the continents were smushed together into a big giant southern continent and a big northern continent, Laurasia and Gondwana. So they've moved around.
Can you back up? I don't know, like before the land masses broke apart, what were the names?
There was one giant landmass, Pangaea, and it started breaking apart into fragments. And initially it broke into a northern one, Laurasia, which became, Canada and Europe and Asia. And then there was a southern one, which was South America, Africa, parts of Australia was attached there for part of it, and Antarctica. And that Gondwana land it moved kind of around, but it was generally south of Laurasia. And so a lot of times you have taxa that are found in both Europe and North America, but it's not because they're moving across the ocean. It's because they evolved when those two continents were together before they broke apart. And then the species just traveled with the continents as they broke apart into North America and Eurasia.
So how would a green one have ended up in Joshua Tree? Like, is that to suggest that there was grass in Joshua Tree once? Is that the idea?
Well, some of them that have more like a general, kind of just a general greenish or brownish color, they're not really trying to look like anything in particular. Right. It's just got the general mantis gestalt, and then there are others that are hyper camouflage.
I found my one.
Oh, good.
So I was looking, there's the Palo Verde tree behind it, and it's quite similar. Like even if this praying mantis was on that tree, it would blend right in.
Is the bark of the tree green?
Yeah.
And in a lot of cases, they look a lot like the habitat that they're on, but they're also pretty fast movers. Like I just took this chunky gal out, the one who just ate her mate. Here she is. And she looks in general a lot like a leaf. But it's not a perfect match, right? Evolution's pretty good, but it's not. Wow. It's not like it would be exactly identical. You or I could probably tell this is a mantis and this is not a leaf that's walking on my hand. Yeah. She has these kind of spots on the inside of her legs. You see those kind of red spots? The kind of red bar right there. And when she's startled, then she can do a pose that makes it look like it's a flash of color, which can startle an animal that's coming towards her. She's so beautiful.
They look so fragile.
They really do, but they're pretty robust. Her legs are full of these spines, and they do tend to be kind of really focused, and they're going, when you see them moving, which is, more commonly they're sitting and waiting, for food. They're sit and wait predators. But when you see them moving, they're usually moving with determination in a certain direction. I think that would if I was an ancient Egyptian and I saw this, I would think, this is probably going in a certain direction. Maybe it's going home, which is like such a common folklore for people to think about.
Where's that one from?
This one's from Asia. This is a Timor mantis.
And there's no danger or anything for a human to pick it up? It wouldn't bite you or anything like that?
I would love to see her try. Her mouth parts are really small, go ahead, girl, go for it. It won't do anything to me. But her legs have spines on them because they use their legs. They're called raptorial forelegs. They bend part of their legs down, which gives them the preying appearance. And there's spines on this side and spines on this side. So if a food item kind of comes by, they can kind of grab it like this. And so if that touches you, it feels pokey, and that sometimes startles people, but they have no venom. They don't bite you intentionally. Even if they tried, their mouth parts are so tiny, it wouldn't do anything. And they're really the good guys to have around because, like you said in the beginning, some people call it luck. I would say it's like a sign of a healthy ecosystem. Because in order for there to be praying mantises, there has to be enough of all the other great insects for them to be able to have food.
So they get rid of all the bad bugs that are on things.
Yeah, they eat flies.
I wanted to include this fun fact that in popular culture, there's a Godzilla-style movie from the 50s called The Deadly Mantis, which was directed by an Australian who later went on to earn marginally more fame by directing his high concept piece, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman.
Both are hits.
Are they actually hits?
I think
I was
so.
being facetious. Yeah.
There's an insect film fear festival that's been held for 30 or 40 years, I think. I forget how long, at the University of Illinois. And the Mantis one has been one of the ones that they've had in this insect film fear festival, or fear film festival. I feel like maybe it's just an entomologist thing, but I think we all know the Mantis movie.
I've definitely seen an image of the cover, maybe kind of through my research. I feel like I've seen lots of and it's a really great film poster.
Well, here's one. Do you think that's ironic? I mean, what do you think about the fact that those two movies that led this person to fame both involve maybe misunderstood apprehension or fear of a powerful female protagonist, right? Because the female praying mantis, I feel like, is mischaracterized, and perhaps the Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. As I recall, I've seen the movie. It was a long time ago, but I mean, she was just trying to make it in the world the same way the praying mantis is just trying to make it.
It's really playing on the stereotype. Yeah, I never saw that film. What is the closest kind of species to the praying mantis?
We debated, the scientific community debated this for a really long time because people couldn't figure it out. They thought maybe it was like grasshoppers and crickets. And then they thought maybe it was stick insects because those look a lot like it. And some people thought maybe it was termites. And some people thought it was cockroaches. And then in 2007, 2008, there was a bunch of us that wrote papers with molecular data. And we showed that cockroaches include termites, and termites are just fancy social cockroaches, and they're the sister to mantises. So it was actually very dramatic for the scientific community. There was this paper that came out from Europe, and it was called Death of an Order, because Isoptera was an order. It was like the termites. It was its own group of insects. Death of an order, very dramatic, because now it was just a cockroach, and these cockroaches are sister to praying mantises. And what's cool is that they both lay an egg case. So this gal that's beside me, she's going to make an egg case soon, I think. They're called an ootheca, and cockroaches also make an ootheca. So they do have like things that are similar, even though they look different, having legs like this versus legs like this, being social, not being social, being predatory, being scavengers. But they do have some like shared derived characteristics, like the way that their eggs are.
Death of an Order sounds like something you would have written. I know you're a metal fan, Jessica.
I know. Actually, there probably is nothing more metal than to study. Like, there's a lot of people who study very pretty insects, and it's great. It's kind of like there's a lot of people who have, butterfly tattoos. But I feel like it's a real metal thing to have like an earwig tattoo, or to study praying mantises, or to have praying mantises in your songs. Like, it's not like you're talking about a beautiful dancing butterfly. You're talking about something that will eat the face off of something else. Like, that's pretty metal. I love that.
Face melting.
Yeah.
Jessica, could we do a little Mantis 101? Are you able to show us a specimen and you could give us a little tour of its biology?
Yeah. So humans, all we've ever done for as long as there have been humans is sort things into categories. This looks like this looks like this looks like this. That's all we do for our job. That's basically what we do at the museum, right? We sort things. We call it taxonomy or classification. We give it all these names, but we're basically just grouping like things with like. So all the insects are grouped together because they have 6 legs. They have a head, a thorax, and an abdomen. So that's what praying mantises have. Praying mantises all have a head, which is right here, which is the eyes. It mostly looks like eyes. They have a thorax, which in praying mantises is kind of long, and then they have an abdomen. They all have 2 sets of wings because they're in this group called Pterygoda, or the winged insects. Ptery means wing. Some insects have lost their wings, like fleas don't have wings, head lice don't have wings because they kind of don't need them. But praying mantises have wings, and what's cool is that their forewings, the front wings, are kind of modified into something called a tegmina. It's kind of leathery and tough. And the hind wings are just like a regular wing. It has a bunch of little wing veins there, and they kind of fold. So when the praying mantis is at rest, it puts its leathery top wings over the back ones to protect it. So it kind of can fly or glide with these hind wings because they're really bendy and they've got all these wing veins and stuff like that. But then this top one is like a protective cover. So it kind of goes over top of the delicate hind wing. And then, like I said, all insects have 6 legs. They're hexapoda, 6 legs. So they have hind legs. This is kind of hard to get this focused with this camera. There's the mesolegs, the middle legs, and then there's the forelegs, the front legs. For most insects, the front legs are like not really part of the story. They're usually rinky-dink and they're tiny and they don't really do anything. And for most insects, the hind leg is like kind of what people talk about, except for the mantises, because look at that. The foreleg is huge. And all legs in insects have 6 segments. There's a coxa and a trochanter, which are kind of like the joint where it's attached to the thorax. And then they have a femur, just like we have a femur, our thigh bone. And then they have a tibia, and then they have a tarsus. And what they've done is they've kind of taken their tibia and their tarsus and turned it into this. So the forelegs, the front legs, are like kind of remarkable. And then those forelegs, we call that raptorial because they use it to catch prey with, and it's full of spines. And different types of praying mantises have more spines, some have less spines. The patterns of the spines is kind of a big part of their story. And over evolutionary time, you see the heft, I guess, and size and specialization of the spine gets more complex as you go towards more recently derived species. And so praying mantises are kind of cool because all of the features that they have are the reflection, I guess, of millions of years of selection, right? Selection on good vision to see the prey that they need to see. They can see a lot of interesting colors and they can, perceive a lot with their ommatidia, with their eyes. Their legs are kind of modified so they can be really good at hunting, and their wings are modified so the hind wing can glide and the front wing can kind of protect it. Because they're moving in and amongst vegetation, and otherwise their wings would get kind of torn up and broken. Their egg cases themselves are kind of modified to be cryptic so that a bird doesn't come along and just eat their egg cases. Like, there's a lot of things that have happened that have been like the buildup of natural selection over really long periods of time. So when you look at that praying mantis on your door jamb, right, that you saw after your coffee, you're actually kind of looking at the product, right, of millions of years of evolution, just hanging out there. No biggie. I'm just super specialized and able to survive in this habitat in a way that nothing else can. But here it is.
What about its so its sight is probably its strength? Does it hear or feel vibrations or?
That's a good question. So people thought that maybe they didn't hear, and then I guess it was probably about 20 years ago now, someone discovered that there are some mantises that can hear. They have a cyclopean ear, cyclops, because it's only on one side. They only have one ear. They don't have two. And it allows them to hear vibrations. And the fact that someone only just found that out 20 years ago is not surprising because there's so many insects and there's so few relative to the number of species, so few entomologists. So there's still a lot of discovery to be made.
I mean, that's good to know because I did stand and talk to that mantis for a little while. Which I was like, if anyone is watching this moment, it must be so strange. But I was by myself and I was talking to it.
Would you care to share any part of your dialogue?
I think the first thing I said to it was that I'm not going to hurt you. I think I said, you're safe here. It just felt like such a special moment. I was really kind of taken away by it. But yeah, I said it was safe, and I said I was grateful that it was there, and they're the main things that I remember.
I'm super curious. What kind of tools do you need to actually take apart a praying mantis's shoulder? That level of dissection, like that blows my mind. And earlier you talked about counting their neurons. I wouldn't even know where to begin with that one.
Well, I mean, thankfully, we have really high-powered microscopes and X-rays here at the museum. So you can take this little guy, and put it in they call it like a computed tomography machine or a CT scanner. And it can basically, kind of like when you get an X-ray, right? It can scan through the whole body, including the brain, which is not really a centralized brain, just more like clusters of ganglia and clusters of nerves. And you can kind of try and reconstruct that. You can do dissections, though, of it sounds silly to say this, but we just use very small instruments. So they're very small, so we just use really tiny, like just very tiny scissors and very tiny scalpels.
You would need like a surgeon's hand.
Yeah, I think it helps if you have a steady hand, for sure. And one of my graduate students, Lohit Garikapati, he works on praying mantises, and he had to dissect out some genitals. And the genitals of praying mantises are very sclerotized, meaning that they're hard and they're coated. They're kind of made up of a type of chitin, which is what makes up their skin. It's very, very hard and tough. And it's covered by surrounding kind of fleshy tissue. And so you have to digest it in a chemical solution. And then it's like quite complicated. And I'm always impressed when people do a great job, and he did a great job, because the praying mantis genitals tell a lot of their story, right? That actually is selected for in a kind of dramatic way to have certain types of parts that fit together from one species to the next. But yeah, the trick is to have really tiny scissors.
Do you think
really
could we take a little peek at mantis genitals, or is that tawdry?
Yeah, it might be hard to see, considering I had a hard time just showing you the wing with this camera, but maybe I can send some photos. Yeah, it's kind of not
I
really...
mean, that all looks like genitals to me.
Well, right there on segment 9 and 10, which is too fuzzy. I'll have to send you a photo.
Yeah.
But there's some naughty bits there, and they are some of them are external, and some of them are internal.
And do they mate the same way us folk do?
Usually the male is on the back of the female, and the genitals are kind of attached. They stay attached for a really long time. I guess that's maybe unlike us, because there's a lot of stuff that happens for the sperm to be transferred. I'm trying to see, maybe I can show you in this gal here. There's in this female, the male that she was mating with was much smaller than her. And so he was kind of like resting maybe on her side, because he's not as long to go all the way up to here. So he was kind of resting on her side with his genitals attached into her genitals right there. And they can stay like that for quite some time. And then either she eats him or he dismounts and kind of scurries off to wherever he needs to go. And she's really chunky. Look like her abdomen is like head, thorax, abdomen. Remember, that's our 101, right? They all have a head, a thorax, and an abdomen. Her abdomen is really big and swollen because she's gravid, or AKA pregnant, so she's going to lay an egg case soon.
How soon after does that happen?
She might lay one today.
Oh,
or at least this weekend, I would hope.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many
Babes?
How many babies come out of that egg casing?
So it varies by the species. Some there's 50, some there's 100, some there's hundreds. Of varies. These are the wings of the male that was in there with her. She just
Poor guy.
tossed the wings to the side and ate the body. So what's cool about praying mantis eggs is I think that they're just really robust. They're, in a lot of cases, especially for North America, like probably the one that you saw, like if it was able to go out and find a mate and do what it needed to do, it can lay egg cases that can then overwinter. And then once it's warm in the spring, then they hatch. And I had that happen to me, actually. I had got a Christmas tree that had a praying mantis egg case in it, which was a native species that overwinter. But when I brought the Christmas tree in, I didn't know it had a praying mantis egg case on it. The heat of my house was sending it that signal. It was cold. Now it's warm, must be spring. And the Uotheka hatched, and I had baby mantises all over my house.
What?
And no food for them because it was Christmas. But that does happen. They're very good at kind of telling time with temperature.
I wonder if the one I saw was a male or female. I wonder if you can tell from the photo.
I mean, I didn't really see like a scale. It's hard to know the scale, but from the size that I was imagining it being from your photo, I would have said a female.
Is there any other insects that do that, like eat their mate afterwards?
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, it happens all the time.
Okay,
It's like
yeah.
spiders do it. And I mean, dragonflies don't do it per se, but dragonflies eat each other all the time. So once they're together, they're mating, as soon as they clasp, you're fair game. You're no longer a friend. You could either be foe or food. Those are the options. There's some insects that have kind of gotten around that, where instead the male will give what's called a nuptial gift. So they'll actually produce like a little packet of protein that they'll give to the female upon mating, and then she'll eat that. And there's some stick insects that do that. There's some grasshoppers that do that. There's flies, famously, there's flies that do that, where they actually carry these little nuptial sacs when they go in their swarms. And there are some males that have learned to game the system, where they basically, picture it kind of like if you had like a bandana and you laid it out, and then you took the four corners and you kind of have it here, right? It's like a little balloon that's full of the protein. They've gamed the system, so they make a really big sack, but they actually don't fill it with anything. And the females pick the males that have the biggest gift, but sometimes the gift is empty. And she gets
Bait and switch.
Wow.
I have a question. Did you think that you were inspired in terms of, we talked a little bit about the lyrics, but in terms of the melody and the sound, did any of kind of the chord changes or progressions, did any of that come from the movement? Or, because I was trying to imagine it as I was listening to it, like a mantis. I could kind of picture the mantis kind of moving around, because I'd heard from Matt, talking to Matt, that that you had seen one, which kind of led to this. And so I was trying to picture, like, as you were going through the melody, the kind of mantis moving around. Did you think about that when you're thinking about the melody, or does the melody just come to you and the lyrics come second?
I think that in this case, it was a lot of that, the music and the kind of melody and the chords had already been written. Yeah, those lyrics especially were later. But that's a really interesting thought. And it's hard to know, like, I think that maybe some of that, like you were saying, the kind of that idea of patience, or them being quite still and patient. I mean, I'm sure that kind of worked its way in. And I hadn't even thought of the inside your cloudy little head lyric, which you were mentioning before. But it wasn't referencing that, but it's interesting how it kind of comes around, and and you can kind of relate it back. Yeah.
Super cool. Thank you both so much. It's such an honor to share this hour with you both.
I feel like I've learnt so much. I really have. Yeah.
Are you going to be you're going through New York, right? You're on tour.
Yes, next month, I think.
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
Well, you're always welcome. You should come and we'll show you the Mantis collection if you're interested. Come by the museum anytime.
I would love that.
Yeah.
Yes, I would love that. And same goes, if you want to come to the show, you're more than welcome.
Thank you.
Be sure to check out Courtney's latest album, Creature of Habit, and you can catch her on tour this spring. For more information, please visit her website, courtneybarnett.com.au. You can learn more about Jessica's work by visiting the American Museum of Natural History in New York City, and by checking out her staff profile page at amnh.org/research/staff-directory/Jessica-Ware. Sing for Science is co-produced by Talkhouse and made possible in part by a grant from the Simons Foundation. Our music is by Panoram, social media director and video editor is Bailey Constas, and our digital producer is Keenan Cush. If you like Sing for Science, the best way you can support us is to give us a review, tell a friend about the show, and subscribe on your podcast platform of choice. For more information, please visit singforscience.org and follow us on social media at Sing for Science. Thanks for listening.